They forged my signature on a refinance application, stole $45,000 from our joint account, and tried to sell the house all while I was deployed in an active war zone. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I watched and I planned. Because there's something they didn't know. I never start the fight, but I always finish it. Stay with me until the end to find out the consequences they never saw coming. Welcome to Vows and Betrayals, where stories of loyalty, love, and devastating betrayal are told with raw emotion and brutal honesty. If you've ever trusted someone so deeply that you lost parts of yourself, leave a single dot in the comments. You're not alone. Thank you for spending your time here. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any of these stories that feel all too real. Now then, let's begin. Hey, I'm Mark Ellison. I'm 43 years old, and at the time this all started, I was deployed with the 10th Mountain Division, stationed high in the mountains of Afghanistan. Snow-covered ridges, air so dry it cracked your lips, and the kind of silence that makes you hear your own heartbeat when you're lying awake at night. I'd just come off a 12-hour patrol shift when I checked my messages. One new email. The sender, Dana Ellison, my wife of 15 years. The subject line read, "We need to talk." The body of the message, just 3 lines. "I've moved out. Don't call me. I'm sorry." That was it. No explanation, no context. Just the quiet digital end of a marriage I'd given everything to protect. You know betrayal doesn't knock. It doesn't come storming through the front door yelling your name. Sometimes it arrives as a Gmail notification. Sans serif font, default spacing, cold as the wind outside that steel barracks door. I stared at the screen, not blinking, not breathing. Then I closed the laptop, stood up, walked to the shared showers, and let the hot water hit me until it ran cold. I didn't scream, didn't punch a wall. Just stood there, steam swirling around my head, heartbeat steady. And I thought to myself, 15 years, and this is how it ends. Not with a fight, not even a goodbye. Just silence both inside and out, stretching longer than any night I'd ever spent in the field. I met Dana on a Tuesday afternoon in October, 15 years ago. I was on a 2-week leave back home in Eureka, Missouri, just long enough to breathe some fall air and pretend the world wasn't at war. She was working reception at a local eye clinic. I'd stopped in for a prescription refill, still in uniform boots, muddy from the field. She smiled, handed me the clipboard, and said, "You Army guys always look so tired. Sit down. I'll bring you some water." That was it. No dramatic music. No movie moment. Just kindness in the middle of a Tuesday. We had coffee that Friday. Talked for 4 hours at a Waffle House. I told her about the base, about the guys in my unit, about sandstorms and sleeping with your boots on. She told me about her younger sister, her mom's arthritis, how she'd wanted to be a nurse but settled into admin work instead. Less mess, more structure, she'd said, laughing. I liked the way she listened, the way her eyes didn't flinch when I talked about things most people avoid. We got married 8 months later. Small ceremony. Her mom cried. My CO shook my hand. I remember thinking, maybe this will anchor me. We got a dog, a beagle mix named Scout, who chewed through 2 pairs of my combat boots before he turned 1. Then came the deployments, one after another. Iraq, Afghanistan, back again. Each time I left, Dana hugged me like she didn't want to let go. Each time I came home, something in her felt further away. There was a pregnancy once, and a loss. We didn't talk about it much. Maybe we should have. Looking back, I don't think the distance started with betrayal. I think it started with silence. And silence, if you feed it long enough, grows teeth. It didn't happen all at once. That's the thing about distance. It's not a door that slams. It's a window left open just wide enough for everything warm to slip out bit by bit. At first, it was little things. Dana stopped asking about my day. She'd stay late at the clinic more often, saying paperwork was piling up. She joined a yoga class on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but came home without breaking a sweat. Her phone had a new passcode. I asked once, she said it was for privacy at work. She started buying new clothes. Not much, just different enough to make me notice. There was a dinner. We went to her friend's birthday. I stood there in a room full of people I didn't know, listening to her laugh at jokes I didn't get, watching her touch her hair in ways I hadn't seen before. I felt like a guest in someone else's life, but I didn't confront her. That's not how I'm wired. The Army teaches you to assess before you act. You don't throw grenades into the dark, you wait, you watch, you gather intel. So that's what I did. I made copies of our important documents, birth certificates, VA loan papers, the house deed insurance records. I rented a small storage unit on the edge of town and placed everything inside, along with my grandfather's old watch and my mother's silver locket. Things that couldn't be replaced. Then I opened a secondary bank account. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to ensure that if the ground shifted beneath me, I'd have something to land on. I didn't say anything. Not to her. Not to my friends. I just carried on like everything was normal, while quietly making sure that if something broke, I wouldn't be standing there empty-handed. That's what being a soldier teaches you. You prepare. Even when there's no order to. Even when no one else sees a storm coming. I didn't reply to Dana's email right away. I didn't write some long, bitter message. I didn't ask questions. What would I even ask? She'd already made her decision. I closed the laptop, rinsed my face in cold water, and changed into a fresh uniform. My bunkmate Ramirez looked over from his cot and said, "You all right, man?" "Yeah," I said. "Just some stuff from home." He nodded, didn't press. Soldiers know when to give space. That night after my shift, I sent back one word. Understood. No anger. No emotion. Just that. 2 days later, I got a notification from our bank app Dana had pulled another $3,200. That made nearly $45,000 in total drained from our joint savings. I stared at the screen. I didn't feel rage, just clarity. I started going through the bank records, and it hit me this wasn't something spontaneous. She'd been moving the money in small amounts since the week I deployed. The bigger transfers started a few days after I landed in country. She'd been planning this. I called the bank from a dusty base phone with a scratchy line. The representative confirmed it. The withdrawals were frequent, calculated, and clean. When I hung up, I stood outside the comms tent, just breathing. Around me, guys were joking, calling home, sipping instant coffee from dented metal mugs. Life rolling on like nothing was wrong. But for me, everything had tilted. Not violently. Just enough that nothing felt straight anymore. And somewhere back in Eureka, Missouri, a man I didn't know was sleeping in my bed, feeding my dog, drinking from my coffee mug. I didn't cry, didn't scream. I opened my notebook, made a list, and then I got to work. I hadn't talked to Lou Carter in a few years. Last time we saw each other was at a funeral for one of our guys from the old unit. He'd gone into law after leaving the Army, said it was just another way to serve. I sent him an encrypted message through Signal. Just one line, need legal eyes, discreet, urgent. He replied within the hour, call me, secure line. That night, I stood outside the barracks under a dead sky wind biting through my jacket phone pressed to my ear. I told Lou everything, the email, the money, the new guy in my house. He listened, didn't interrupt. When I finished, there was a pause. Did you say your name is still the only one on the VA loan? Yeah. deed too. She never qualified. Then we've got something. Over the next week, Lou started pulling records. He called in a favor from a buddy in real estate law. They found a refinance application, $30,000 signed just 2 months ago. Only it wasn't my signature. It looked like mine. But the middle initial was wrong. The slope of the letters was off. And somehow, Kyle Benson, Dana's boyfriend, was listed as a co-applicant. That's when Lou's voice changed. The casual tone vanished. This isn't just a messy divorce, Mark. This is fraud. Federal. And if Kyle's on that paperwork, we might be looking at something bigger than just your case. I didn't say anything at first. Just let the words settle. Fraud. Forgery. Real estate theft. I wasn't just dealing with a broken marriage anymore. This was war. I didn't land in Missouri with vengeance on my mind, just clarity. Lou picked me up from the airport in a beat-up truck that rattled at every turn. We didn't talk much on the drive, just the kind of quiet that hangs between men who've seen too much and said too little for too long. The plan wasn't to storm the house or confront anyone. That's not how justice works. Not when the system's already watching. We needed to catch them, not just red-handed, but undeniable. First step: surveillance. I reactivated the security cameras I'd installed before my last deployment: front porch, kitchen, even the hallway. I'd chosen cloud backup for a reason. Dana had probably forgotten all about them. Over the next few days, I monitored everything from a rented motel room a few miles away. Scout lay by my boots, like he always had, sensing my stillness, mirroring it. Kyle moved through my home like he owned it, sat in my recliner, drank from my coffee mug, let my dog out the back door like this was all normal. Dana, she didn't look manipulated. She looked settled, comfortable. That hurt more than I expected, but we had work to do. Lou and I crafted a message that sounded like me, just enough warmth to seem sincere, just enough distance to make it believable. I'll be passing through town. Maybe we could talk, for closure. Dana replied within the hour. Riverwalk Park, 10 a.m. Saturday. Perfect. Meanwhile, Lou had traced the refinance paperwork. Turns out the same real estate agent, James Harper, was connected to other quick sale transactions involving military families. We suspected he'd make a move soon. So, Saturday morning, I parked 2 blocks from the house. Lou set up in a car across the street with a long lens camera and backup battery. I logged into the security feed from my phone. At 9:45 a.m., Dana left the house dressed like she was meeting someone she still wanted to impress. She drove off right on schedule. At 10:12, a silver Honda Civic pulled into the driveway. Harper stepped out, folder under one arm, phone in the other. Kyle came out seconds later, grinning like a man about to get paid. They shook hands and walked into my house. I turned on audio from the kitchen feed. "I've already got a buyer lined up," Harper said. "Cash. She's prepped and ready to close by end of week." Kyle's voice came through clear. "That fast?" Harper chuckled. "These military cases are always quick. Half the time the guy doesn't even show up." Kyle asked, "And the husband? He's out of the country. Won't know a thing until the ink's dry." "Dana's handling it." Lou looked at me and didn't say a word. He didn't have to. I hit record, sent the footage directly to Agent Patel's secure line with a simple message: "It's happening, right now." By the time Agent Patel called us back, the evidence we'd collected had already begun a quiet chain reaction. Her voice was steady, clipped. "We're moving now. Stay put." I stayed put. Lou and I sat in silence inside his truck parked just a few blocks from the house. Scout lay in the back seat, his ears twitching now and then, like he knew something was shifting. Minutes passed, like hours. Then movement. Unmarked black SUVs rolled up in formation. Doors opened in sync. Men and women in windbreakers moved like clockwork. No sirens, no shouting, just quiet surgical precision. I watched from a side street as Harper was led out in cuffs. He looked smaller somehow. Kyle followed next, his smirk nowhere in sight. 2 agents flanked him, hands firm on his arms. Dana arrived 10 minutes later, pulling into the driveway with a grocery bag in the passenger seat. The moment she saw the agents, she froze. One of them approached, flashed a badge. She stepped back, visibly shaken. I wanted to look away. I didn't. Later that day, we met Agent Patel and another Agent Donovan in a plain government office. She laid out the facts like dominoes falling in order. This was bigger than one scam. Harper and Kyle have been running similar schemes for years, targeting deployed military families. Your footage gave us what we needed to escalate. I asked, and Dana Donovan spoke this time, still unclear. She's not in the fraud ring records, but she forged your signature. If you want to press charges, we'll support it. I thought about it. Really thought. But I wasn't there to destroy her, just to reclaim what was mine. She'll sign over the house, I said, renounce any claim to my benefits, and write a full confession. Patel nodded. If she agrees, we'll prioritize the larger charges against the main actors. Within 48 hours, the deal was signed. Dana gave up everything: the house, her stake in my pension, a written confession with dates, names, and the forged refinance application. In return, I let her walk. She didn't say goodbye. Neither did I. Later that week, Agent Patel called again. We've opened a multi-state case. Your testimony triggered subpoenas in 3 jurisdictions. Turns out Harper and Kyle had a pattern 11 families, maybe more. I looked down at Scout asleep at my feet. He stirred slightly, like he'd heard it all before. For the first time since that cold email in Afghanistan, something inside me relaxed. Just a little. They hadn't just stolen money. They'd tried to erase me. Now I was written back into the story, with receipts. Dana wasn't arrested. Not then. Maybe not ever. The FBI said they were still figuring out how deep she was in, whether Kyle manipulated her or she'd been part of it all along. She signed over the house, gave up any claim to my pension, wrote a formal confession admitting she forged my signature. In return, I didn't press charges. It wasn't grace. It wasn't revenge. It was closure. 6 months later, I sold the house. Couldn't stand the echo in the hallways. With the money, I bought a small cabin outside Missoula, Montana. 2 bedrooms. A creek. No voices, but the wind. And I brought Scout with me. My old Beagle mix. Still limps a little from when he chased a squirrel into a ditch. Still curls up next to my boots, like nothing ever changed. He'd been there through it all. Through deployments. Through loss. Through betrayal. So when I left everything else behind, I took him. I started doing carpentry in town. Quiet work. Fixing porches, building sheds. Enough to keep the hands busy. I retired early. 20 years in the Army was enough. Sometimes I wonder where she went. But only sometimes. What mattered more was where I was going. A year passed. Seasons came and went like waves. Scout got slower, but he still followed me everywhere like he always had. One evening, just after dinner, I found a letter in the mailbox. No return address. Just my name in careful handwriting. Inside was a short note. You don't know me, but I know what you did. I'm a Navy wife. My husband was deployed last year. When they tried to scam us, Kyle and Harper, they almost got our house. The FBI told me it was your case that broke it wide open. You saved us. I just wanted to say thank you. I read it twice. then again, and for the first time in a long while, I felt something shift. Not regret, not bitterness, something quieter, warmer. Scout nudged my hand. I folded the letter, tucked it into the old ammo box where I kept things that mattered. I hadn't set out to help anyone. I just didn't want to be erased. But somehow fighting for myself gave someone else a chance too. And that felt like enough. Some betrayals hit like a bullet. Others arrive quietly with a signature that isn't yours on a page you never saw. But strength doesn't always look like rage. Sometimes it's silence, strategy, patience. I didn't win by yelling. I won by knowing who I was and refusing to disappear. If you've ever had to rebuild from ashes, if you've ever felt invisible in your own home, this story is yours too. Leave a single dot in the comments if it spoke to you. Like and subscribe to Vows and Betrayals, where truth is raw and healing is possible. Now breathe. You're still standing.